October 1911, the north ridge of the Monte Cristo Range, Snohomish County, Washington. The mining operation had been dead 3 years, the town below largely empty, but the North Face Trail was still being used, and 5 men who had used it had not returned. He had come in on a Great Northern freight car out of Everett, 30 miles west, arriving 3 days prior. The upper elevations were already under first snow. This deep into the Cascades, October does not negotiate. It arrives with its full weight and expects nothing back. The Sauk River logging camp had work, brush clearing, 40 cents a day, meals at a communal bench. He took it without asking further questions. Survival economics in the North Cascades that fall. You worked what was available, asked nothing extra, and kept moving when the work ran out. The men at camp talked about it that first night. 5 gone from the same mountain. Different years, how different seasons, but always the same place on the north face where the track stopped. Nobody had linked them officially. That detail alone deserved more attention than it had received. He had ridden 3 Great Northern freights to reach this corridor, Spokane west through the mountain pass to Everett, saying then 30 miles by road into the Sauk Valley. 4 days on open cars, coal dust and sawdust for bedding. Everything past the Everett Junction required legs. The Great Northern's logging spurs were the only reliable corridors into the North Cascades interior in 1911. Roads existed on paper. Most became impassable by October. A man without rail access moved through mud that could take a boot before dawn and a week to dry. Monte Cristo had operated as a silver and gold mining settlement since 1894. By 1907, the ore was played out, the Rockefeller-backed operation withdrawn, the town's buildings left standing with their contents. By 1911, fewer than 20 permanent residents remained. The mountain above had not changed. The first was a prospector, reader according to camp records, no given name recorded. He took the North Face Trail in late September 1905, expected back within 2 days. His pack was found at the base of the ridge. He was not found with it. 2 years later, so the Halverson brothers, Norwegian-born timber workers from the Everett camps, took the same route in October 1907. One man's axe was found on the ridge, the other's bedroll. Neither body was recovered. The county record listed both as presumed drowned. The fourth was a Forest Service seasonal worker, summer of 1909, assigned to survey the upper ridge for a proposed trail extension. His field notes were recovered at base camp. The final entry described the North Shelf in clear weather. The survey was never completed. The fifth was the most recent September 1911. He's 6 weeks before he arrived. A timber cruiser named Olds had gone up the north face to assess the ridge timber, a route he had worked before. He did not come back from this one. The camp had not yet sent a report. 5 men, 6 years, and every time, in mud and snow on firm ground, the tracks reached the same rocky shelf at 4,200 feet and stopped. No impressions past that point, nothing in the terrain to account for it. That was what the notes at camp described. He stayed through the second night at Sauk River camp, and adding nothing more to what he had already put down in the notes. His name does not appear in those notes, not once. Whether that was deliberate or whether the note simply never reached the pages where he wrote it, we don't know yet. If you want to be here when we find out, subscribe. The road continues. A Snohomish County Forest Service field notation dated October 14, 1911. Unknown traveler at Sauk Camp. She inquired about North Ridge disappearances. Offered no identification. That is the only document placing him here. The most specific thing anyone wrote down about him that year. Before camp stirred on the 3rd morning, he was already on the trail. He had asked the night shift foreman for directions, not the official route, but the one the 5 men had actually used. The foreman gave it without comment. Men asked about that trail. They always asked. The North Face Trail gained 2,400 feet in under 4 miles, unmaintained since 1909, so blow down across 3 sections. He moved through it in under 2 hours. The road does that. It makes a man efficient at terrain that should slow a man down considerably. The tree line ended at 3,800 feet. Above it, exposed rock, alpine scrub, the first consistent snow. The trail continued clearly past the tree line. At 4,200 feet, it stopped. No cliff edge, no collapse, no feature on the ground that required a man to leave it. The shelf at 4,200 feet was approximately 40 feet across. East, the ridge continued upward at a steeper angle. West, a talus slope dropped 300 feet. Neither direction showed continued tracks. The ground was firm enough that any passage would have left a mark. He spent an hour on the shelf, moving methodically. Boot impressions approached from below. The most recent set he estimated 2 weeks old, consistent with Olds. They crossed the shelf north. At the north edge, they stopped. The rock beyond showed nothing, unmarked and unchanged, no cornice above the shelf. The talus below would have shown evidence of a fall. The 1909 Forest Service surveyor was a trained man. He would have recorded unstable ground in his notes before proceeding. He had not. The shelf offered nothing that accounted for 5 men gone. Here is what you need to understand about the Monte Cristo corridor in 1911. The logging spur line into the valley was controlled by interests connected to the original mining operation. When the mines failed, the rail access did not disappear, it changed hands, it stayed active. The Sauk River camp foreman's work ledger, reviewed by the county assessor in 1912, contains one relevant line from October 1911. 4 workers declined North Ridge assignment. 2 previous men on same route did not return. Route suspended pending review. No review was ever documented. In 1905, a timber survey of the Upper Monte Cristo Range had been commissioned by the rail spur ownership, not the Forest Service. Its purpose was old-growth timber assessment on the North Ridge. It was never completed. Reeder disappeared during that same autumn. The survey was active. When the Halverson brothers entered the North Face in October 1907, so they were following a blazed route. Tree markings designating a timber survey corridor. Those blazes ended at the 4,200-foot shelf. That was the northern boundary of the 1905 survey zone. Nobody had officially documented what lay above. The recovered field notes run 11 pages. The final entry, dated August 19th, showed 1909. North shelf at approximately 4,200 feet, timberline complete, proceeding to assess upper ridge. The following page is blank. He had been sent to document precisely what the 1905 survey had not reached. The official record across 2 counties and 2 agencies contains no cross-reference between all 5 cases. Reeder, lost, presumed fallen. The Halversons, presumed drowned. The 1909 worker, missing, no findings. Olds, missing. Search pending. 5 separate files, nothing acknowledging any pattern between them. What no file contains, the timber survey's active dates during 3 of the 5 disappearances. What no file connects, all 5 men were working the same designated approach corridor, the one the 1905 survey blazed. The geography was not coincidental. No document acknowledged that. Think about what this corridor looked like from the timber company's position in October 1911. 5 men gone. A survey boundary nobody had officially crossed since 1905. A rail line still operating into the valley, and a Forest Service filing each disappearance in its own separate drawer. He came down from the shelf by mid-afternoon. The north face descent put strain on the ankles. Every period account of this terrain confirms it. By the tree line, he was favoring his left foot. The mountain costs what it costs. The notes recorded this without complaint. Weather records from Everett for October 1911 describe persistent overcast and light precipitation above 3,000 feet, as early snowpack on exposed elevations above 4,000. The temperature at the shelf by mid-morning would have been near freezing. 5 men had gone into exactly this. None came back. This is not the kind of thing that appears in official records. 5 men working the same designated corridor in sequence across 6 years. The county did not connect it. The Forest Service did not connect it. What we have is a pattern the official system was simply not designed to see. His notes from those 4 days at Sauk River, 4 pages by the reconstruction, describe the shelf in physical terms. Guess-only dimensions, impression depths, blaze-mark termination coordinates. He wrote nothing editorial. He described what was there and what was not. That is the entirety of the record he left. On the 4th morning, the timber company supervisor arrived from Everett, Briggs, per the work ledger. He did not address the disappearances. He addressed the workers directly. The North Ridge route was company property. Unauthorized access was grounds for immediate discharge. No explanation was offered for the timing. 2 workers left camp that afternoon. They had been at Sauk River since August and had heard the full account of Olds' disappearance. Neither spoke to the supervisor before leaving. One of them, per camp records, she had worked the Halverson route in 1907. He had not returned to it since. A discharged logging worker in October 1911 had few options. Harvest season was over. Construction had halted for winter, the freight lines were the only way out, and the rail company controlled access to Everett's loading platforms. The supervisor understood the math on that. Most men stayed. He was not subject to discharge. He had never been on the payroll, 40 cents a day, meals included, on no paperwork. The supervisor's warning applied to every man in that camp, except the one who had been writing it all down. He went back up the following morning before the cook's fire, per the note's own timing. He brought rope and a compass borrowed from the Forest Service kit still hanging in the tool shed. He returned to the 4,200-foot shelf. This time he measured everything twice. The notes record one additional detail from the second visit. On the eastern edge of the shelf, partially covered by dislodged rock, a fragment of canvas. Weathered and faded, he described the weave as consistent with Forest Service pack construction 1905 to 1910. He left it where it lay. The canvas fragment was 12 feet east of where the boot impressions ended. For an object to reach that position from the trail's terminus required movement, by wind, by water, or by hand. October on that ridge was windy. The shelf was fully exposed. Wind could have placed it there. Wind could not account for 5 separate sets of impressions terminating at the same point across 6 years. Wind does not erase tracks from alpine soil or snow, both of which retain them. The canvas was the only evidence of any presence above the termination line. Past that point, nothing. Snohomish County Assessor records document a copper assay application for the Upper Monte Cristo Ridge, filed spring 1905, the same spring the first timber survey was commissioned, by a proxy company connected to the rail spur ownership. Application granted August 1905. Reader disappeared September 1905. A copper assay at that elevation required physical sampling above 4,200 feet. The 1905 timber survey had blazed the approach route. The assay application describes the mineral zone as beginning at the north shelf approximately 4,200 feet. The shelf was not a trail terminus. It was a zone entrance. All 5 men shared 3 documented things: the same designated approach corridor, a working connection to entities within the rail spur contractor network, and a destination at the entrance of a mineral zone never officially reopened after 1905. That is what the documentary record supports. Nothing more. The Great Northern Everett Operations Ledger for 1911, held by the Washington State Historical Society, contains an October notation: Monte Cristo North Corridor, access suspended pending safety assessment. No such assessment was ever filed. No safety incident had been recorded. The notation appeared the week after Olds disappeared. Workers who remained at Sauk River through November, documented in the 1912 County Labor Survey, described the North Ridge Trail as closed by company order from October 14th, all 1911 forward. That was the same date as the Forest Service notation recording his presence and his inquiry. On the 5th morning, he settled with the cook for meals beyond his working days. 7 cents owed. He paid it. He shouldered his pack and walked back toward the Everett Road. He did not look back at the mountain. The notes don't say that he did. He picked up the Great Northern Freight at the junction west of Monte Cristo, cedar loaded, heading toward Everett. 5 days at Sauk River. $2 earned. A few pages of observations about a mountain that had taken 5 men and had not yet offered an account of any of them. The 4 pages he wrote at Sauk River do not speculate. They describe the shelf's dimensions, impression depths, termination coordinates, and the canvas fragment. He offered no opinion on the company or the rail line or the 5 names. He was 21. He wrote what he found, nothing further. The 5 Monte Cristo disappearances were never officially linked. No inquest was convened. In 1917, the copper assay application for the Upper Ridge expired, without any documented extraction activity. The North Ridge Trail remained closed by company order until the rail spur was decommissioned in 1920. The last record placing him near the Monte Cristo corridor is dated October 1911, a Forest Service field notation, a Cook's Ledger settlement entry, and 4 pages of his own. After that, there's a freight car headed west and the road continuing south toward Everett and whatever came next. The 5 disappearances were never officially linked. No inquest was convened. The copper assay lapsed in 1917. The rail spur was pulled up in 1920. The North Ridge Trail was reclaimed by the forest within a decade. What happened at 4,200 feet on the Monte Cristo North Face between 1905 and 1911 is not recorded. The road doesn't keep that kind of account. If this is the kind of historical storytelling you want to keep following, subscribe to the channel. More roads. More cases. More of what the official record left out. And if you know this era, this region, or this kind of road, tell us in the comments what you know, what the records missed, what your family remembered that nobody wrote down. The people who lived this history are the reason anyone can reconstruct it. We want to hear from them.